Over and over, we are taught, do not oppress the stranger, for you were once strangers. Let us never forget from where we've come, so that we may be welcoming and compassionate, turning strangers into beloved neighbors and friends. Please stand up if you are able, as we rededicate ourselves to immigrants. Let's join together.
Tekiya, Shvarim Trua, Tekiya.
It is my pleasure to welcome Betty Cruz.
Shana Tova. So 15 years ago, I was in Israel for the high holidays. I'm not Jewish, but I was there learning about Judaism, and I have to say, it was a critical crossroads in my life, and I was looking for some type of a sign towards the end of the trip, some type of a sign of what I needed to do next. And as I was walking with a friend, I looked on the ground and I found a gold Star of David, and I picked it up, and I've held on to it close ever since, and it really, that moment and that experience really impacted my trajectory in life. So I wanted to share that with you. It's very an honor and very powerful to be here with you today. So when I think of rededicating myself or ourselves to social justice, there's a few key things that came to mind that I wanted to share with you and see if it resonates. Something I've been thinking about that I heard someone say in the last year, when you look at the kind of the space you occupy in this world and the role that you can play, is asking yourself the question, how can I be most useful? So I've found for me, for it to be quite beneficial, to continuously ask myself, when we're talking about working with immigrants, and especially in these times, how can you be most useful? Asking this over and over and then remembering to listen. In that same spirit, a second thing that comes to mind for me is a lot of times we talk about standing for. What we really need to be talking about is standing with. So standing with means that you know when to stand beside. It means you know when to stand back. And it means that you, because you've been listening and have asked when you could be useful, know when it's appropriate to step forward and be that strong vocal ally. The third thing that I wanted to say is, leading up to today, in addition to my own reflections, I reached out to immigrant community members to hear what they thought, knowing that we would be here today, what one thing they feel is most pressing, maybe misunderstood, that they wanted you to keep in mind, and what theme was most relevant, was most prevalent, I should say, was understanding that we're talking about a human rights issue when we say immigrant rights. So whether it's refugees that are fleeing and now closed off from this country, the family that's being separated, the children who are being re-traumatized at the border and in their flight, the demonizing of Muslims, of Latinos, and refugees, the legacy of racism and oppression that afflicts Black and brown communities irrespective of documentation. We're talking about human rights. The last point that I wanted to share with you is, and my, I guess, question for you all, is to think about how you can be bold. What used to be the way things were, what used to be courageous just doesn't apply anymore. We need to step it up. So whether that's thinking about your own self, your own place in this world, the privilege that you have because of the color of your skin, because of an education that put you much further ahead than your family. I'm the first in my family to go to college, first born in this country. So I was not born into privilege, but I have to recognize that I have privilege now. So whether it's in your own self-awareness and talking about that with people that you are close to, that maybe you don't agree with, so that you can open their mind, or being bold in understanding the systems of oppression and how you can dismantle them. If you had told me a few years ago that I would be here saying my bold policy call is that we need to abolish ICE, I maybe would have thought that. at that point in time, maybe I didn't get it. I wasn't woke enough. I didn't know, and I might have thought that was too radical, but that is not radical anymore. That is what has to happen. We have to understand that these systems of oppression, ICE, for example, has only existed since 2003. They serve no purpose besides to terrorize our community, no good purpose. So understand those systems of incarceration, systems of oppression, and I think we need to ask ourselves, is this who we are? Because right now it is. So it doesn't have to be. That's in our hands, and I guess that's my question for you, is what steps you can take to stand with immigrants and everyone. Thank you.